Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. As Nottingham Forest are in desperate need of a win against a team they just can't beat at the City Ground in Chelsea. So can Ange Postecoglou do enough to keep his job? Joining me to tell us how hard Chelsea will make it for that to happen and the Reds to get a positive result. Great to welcome back Chelsea fan Harry Daniels. Harry, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Chelsea fans, we're still living off the high of our result just before the international break. A result like that takes a long time. So it was quite nice to have 2 weeks where we can sort of wallow in it before something else goes wrong, maybe.
Well, wallow's the word for Forest fans, but in a less positive sense, certainly, the way it's been for us. We'll get into that, certainly. Out of curiosity, has your wife ventured an Ange in or Ange out opinion that every other Forest fan seems to have done or not?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't helped that I've sort of poked the narrative a little bit that it's more Ange out, and I don't think he's the right man for the job. So yeah, not a very happy Forest family this side.
No, well, no. It's a familiar discussion that we've had, and it's interesting how many people, even this early, say that he's not the man for the job and he's got to go. It does feel like this is his last life, perhaps, but Chelsea are in the way. I was looking at how they've started the season. I've only seen a couple of your games, and you played well in both of them. So I was surprised to see that you're seventh. What have you made of it in general before we get into specifics?
I think generally Chelsea fans are pretty happy. We've played pretty good football. We've thrown away a couple of games, which I'm sure we'll talk about, which is the which is the issue. And it's probably the difference between where we are versus where we want to really be. You know, when you look at a team like a Liverpool or an Arsenal, I know those have dropped a couple of points, but that's probably the difference is we've thrown away a couple of games recently, particularly through those red cards and the discipline. But generally, I think the fan base is pretty happy with how things are going.
Yeah, the three red cards stood out. I don't think I've seen them. One was in the Premier League on a day when I refused to watch Match of the Day, so he must have had a bad result. And then there was one in the Champions League and another in the Premier League. I mean, is
Yeah.
there a pattern, a concern there, or were they just unfortunate?
There's actually a fourth, which was Maresca against
Oh,
Liverpool. So
yes.
he won't be in the dugout against you in
Mm.
at the weekend. They're all like unfortunate. Sanchez early on against Man United, he shouldn't have done what he did. He came flying out of the box and didn't get the ball and got the man, and it cost us the game really. The Brighton one, bad back pass, defender chasing back to try and make amends and put in a challenge maybe he shouldn't have done. And the one in the Champions League was two yellows. I think there's a lot of talk that did Chelsea have a discipline problem all of a sudden? And if you actually look at them, it's not like we're getting red cards because of a lack of discipline. Like there's not punch ups. There's not like dangerous tackles flying in really. Like they've all been one match suspensions. It's not like dangerous tackles, 3 matches. So I'm not concerned at all, despite the fact that those two of the red cards in the Premier League have definitely cost us.
Yeah, I did wonder when you said about. I remember about Maresca, and he can be a bit of a hothead, and I wondered if that had translated. I remember also on Maresca about a year ago, you weren't totally sold on him. I mean, he seems
Mm.
like he's doing a good job to me now. To be fair, where are you at on him now?
Yeah, I think still pretty positive with him. I think he didn't deal with the two red cards well at all. The way that we suddenly see he seemed to panic against Man United in particular when our goalkeeper got sent off and started making all world of changes which we didn't really need to make. And he did a similar thing in the Brighton game where we were 1-0 up and we got a red card, and he just basically took all our attackers off in both games and just said, okay, if you can score enough goals against us, you'll win. And they did in both times. And then we were just not in a position to get back into the game really in either of them. So I think people have been very positive, particularly the way we ended last year, then the Club World Cup, and the way we started this season. But I think the two red cards, despite the fact that the red cards were not good from the two players, it actually brought more attention to how Maresca managed those situations than the actual players themselves getting sent off.
Another interesting thing is we always talk about Chelsea signings. You had some new players, obviously. You've had injuries as well, some really
Mm.
unfortunate ones. We'll come on to that Liverpool game, but do you feel he's managed the squad well in general this season?
Yes, in general, he has. I think there's a question mark about exactly what's happening with Cole Palmer at the moment, and I think that's
Mm.
probably the big one. But he was quite vocal that he wanted a centre back and he didn't get it, and I think he's managed it pretty well outside of that. Like generally, he's doing a very good job. The two players that Chelsea fans want to see on the pitch more often than we have in the past 18 months is Reece James and Lavia. And touch wood at the moment that we don't really have that injury problem with either of them at the moment because he's managing them very well. Like they're not playing 3 times a week; they're barely playing twice a week at the moment, which you'd love to see them more. But if it means Reece James is going to stay fit for the whole season, I'd rather him play once a week if that's what we're going to get. So I think he's managed it in overall very well. Just the Cole Palmer injury situation doesn't feel like that is being managed well.
No, I assume he's not going to play in this game. You feel like he might be out for a while. It feels like a real nagging one they haven't come quite clean on. I don't know.
Yeah, so apparently it's a groin injury he's been having for a while, which really became worse in the Club World Cup. And then he sort of played a few games at the start, got a little bit of an injury, then it got a little bit better and he came back. And then he obviously was put back in too quickly and it's got worse. Um, and then they've spoken about surgery versus just managing it, and it's in one of those, right? Do you rule him out for months if you were to operate on it and make it better? It's difficult to say who's at fault for a situation like that, but I think it's going to be a long while before we see him playing 3 times a week. Like I think we'll see him back in the squad at some point over the next month or so. That's what they're saying, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Palmer playing 90 minutes Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday like we have in the past.
Let's take a word for the Trent navigation. Obviously, we're discussing Forest v Chelsea, and as you know, it's the early kickoff, 12:30 p.m. on TNT Sports. And if you don't have a ticket, you can watch it on the big screen at the Nav. And if you do, you can enjoy the build-up and return there for post-match when they will be showing Fulham versus Arsenal and have a DJ set from Sanj Berry. So make a day of it. If you're in Nottingham, start at the Nav, head to the game, and then return to the Nav for hopefully a victory celebration. And what's the team news that you're aware of on the defence? Because that defence that finished the Liverpool game was pretty crazy and they did very well. Are you expecting players back or not?
Yeah, I would say actually that despite the fact that we didn't really sign centre backs, we have a lot of depth in that position. So the fact that we were 6 centre backs down by the end of that game and we were still playing, Hato, I know he's 19, but he's got a lot of European experience coming from Ajax. Chalobah was suspended, so 1 game is expected to be back. Tosin is expected to be back. Fofana was concussion, so he is more than likely going to be available. And then Badiashile and Josh Acheampong were just sort of knocks on the day. So we're expecting to have probably at least 5 of the 6 back, if not all of them. The two that we are sort of missing now are Palmer and Delap.
I'll ask you for an 11 in a minute. Sorry, I cut you off there. Was there another
Sorry,
name?
Colwill, but Colwill's he's out for the season basically.
Yeah. Just before I ask you for predicted 11, there's some interesting young players there. Acheampong, I've not seen much of him before. I mean, is there a temptation for you to keep him in the team, or is he too far down the order?
I think when everyone's fit and available, he's too far down the order. I do think that he's not that far away from it, though. I think he should be maybe our first backup. There's a lot of centre backs at Chelsea, and none of them are so good that they are definitely in the team every week. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season it's not Chalobah and Tosin, because Chalobah's been all right. He's had some good games, but he's also had some games where he's not been at his best. So we don't really have that one defender that normally I like to have, a sentiment partnership, whether it's been Rudiger in the past or Thiago Silva, where they'll make the person with them better, whoever they're playing with. But it feels like we've got 2 of that. We've got 2 of the ones that need someone good next to them. So I don't think he'll start, but he is a very good young talent.
Would you be all right to give us a predicted 11? It's been difficult with Chelsea, I know, but could you have a stab at it?
Yeah, so I think it will be Sanchez in goal, Cucurella. I'm presuming that Chalobah is back, so Chalobah, and I'm presuming Tosin will be available. If not Tosin, it will be Fofana. And I think Reece James will play at right back. Going forward, so João Pedro will definitely play and almost certainly play up front. I would say Esteval will definitely play. I'll say Neto, Enzo Fernandez, and Caicedo, which basically only leaves one position, which is, do we play someone like a a Garnacho, like a Buonanotte in more of a number 10 role, or do we bring in a Lavia or a Gusto to play in midfield and push Enzo Fernandez further forward? And I reckon that's what he goes with. Enzo Fernandez sort of in the number 10 behind João Pedro, and it will be Lavia or Gusto, depending on what he wants to do with Europe midweek. I would say Lavia is the slightly more likely.
So one of the players I wanted to ask you about was the right winger, whoever it is, and I assume it's going to be Estevao. If Zinchenko plays and steps into midfield, it just terrifies me, frankly, what could happen there. So Estevao, talk to us about him. He looks a real talent.
Yeah, he does. He's one of those players who's just so exciting to watch, and whether he plays from the start or whether he comes in off the bench, you can just feel the sort of stadium and the mood boost that it gives to the team and to the fans when he comes on. And it's so nice to have a winger that wants to take on his man. You don't get that so much anymore. So many wingers are coached to, make sure they're keeping the ball and create chances. But he is one that as soon as he gets on it, if you give him too much space, Zinchenko inverting, it's one of those that you quite like the matchup from a Chelsea point of view.
I know. We're recording this before team news, so I wouldn't mind personally if he's out and we have to play a conventional fullback there in Nico Williams. That'd be interesting. What about João Pedro? Well, a mutual friend, as the Brighton fan, wasn't really rating the transfer and was quite happy to take the money. What have you made of him playing as an out-and-out number 9 if he does that?
Well, I mean, Brighton fans are quite happy to take the money from us with Caicedo and Cucurella as well. Yeah, it seems to be the best in their positions in the entire league at the moment. So, I think João Pedro, he's been a really good signing. He's struggled for service quite a lot recently, particularly with those red cards. We've taken off a lot of our wingers and our attacking players that feed him a little bit. So as a result, he's not had quite as many chances as we'd hoped, and the goals he was scoring early on. But he can play in the number 10, which is actually I think where Maresco prefers him, or up front. But yeah, he's been a very good addition for us so far.
Yeah, I mean, one of the stats that's going around on FPL and on your videos, I'm sure I've seen, is he's not had a shot in 3 games and all that kind of stuff. You think that's a red herring then?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, 2 of those have had a red card in, and the other one was the Brentford game where something like that happens. It doesn't particularly concern me. It's more, I think, what's happened around him.
In terms of who will play around him, then you touched on it a bit there. Where else does the goal threat come from? Enzo Fernandez is a weird name, I suppose. Is he one of one of those names?
Yeah, especially if he's playing further forward. If he's playing in the sort of Palmer role, he is always a big box crasher, arriving late. We've seen it a couple of times already this season and almost scored again against Liverpool. Then it's Neto and Estevao. We don't have, I suppose, once Palmer comes out of the team, João Pedro's goal share needs to go up. A lot of it does fall on him when Palmer's not in the team, but Enzo definitely has the ability. And then the wingers are not like Neto and Estevao. I think are a very good pairing, but they've never been ones that I think are going to score 1 in 2 or 1 in 3. We're probably looking at something a little bit lower than that. So in terms of reliable goal threat, it is really João Pedro, and then just having enough other players that can contribute.
Yeah, I suppose when we look at the bigger picture of the season, I think you said you thought Chelsea would finish 4th. Have you seen anything to change that opinion then so far?
Not really. I think the only thing that would probably can contribute to changing my opinion is maybe how a couple of the other teams look. I think Palace and Bournemouth, particularly without Europe for Bournemouth, probably they won't manage this for 38 games. But with the way that those 2 clubs are playing, I can imagine that one of them will give us a pretty good run for that spot by the end of the season. But I still think it's probably where we'll finish.
Give me some hope for Forest. Any weaknesses that you think we can get at? Any areas or players specifically that are areas of potential joy for us?
Yeah, I would say our centre-back pairing, we have defensively a lot of errors in us. And I think that's how we've conceded a lot more goals than maybe we should already so far this season. So, a press which puts those defenders under pressure in order to not have the time that they want to play out and, start making dodgy passes. We make a rod for our own back quite a lot of the time with individual errors, particularly defensively. So I imagine that's where we'll probably do it again.
So I always ask people, especially the guests, the opposition fans who watch a lot of football, which I know you do, what's your take on Forest? And it's okay to say you think we're rubbish and you'll win easily.
I think the sooner that Ange is not at the helm, this is probably the better. Of course, like what happened with Nuno is one thing, but to go from a manager who is very one-sided in the way he plays with Nuno, more defensive, to go to someone like Ange is a whole change in such a short space of time that just didn't seem. It felt really obvious that it wouldn't work for a lot of people. It felt like watching on and thinking the way that he managed it at Spurs with the players that you've got available. So I have to say, I have to feel I'm more pleased that you haven't got rid of him during the break, having got this fixture now.
Thanks to Harry, and thanks to everyone in advance for a little bit of patience. A couple of adverts and word of thanks for sponsors as we finish. Without these guys, wouldn't be able to do this as a full-time enterprise. So first of all, quick word of thanks for Streamline Growth and James Bogue. If you are an entrepreneur, an owner of a small business, maybe someone who's just had their tax bill and realised they need to scale up as much as they can, do get in touch with James. He is the person for you. Scan the QR code on the screen, click the link in the comments. If you want more time, more profit, and to reach your real potential as a business, get in touch with James. It's hard enough to grow things without any help and support, but he is the man for you. So thanks as ever to James for his support. Let's also take a word of thanks for Home Move Estate Agents. Let's also bring you this week's property of the week. Those of you watching yesterday will have noticed that I forgot to upload the video file, and so apologies to Ben, but happy to bring you this house today. And it is a beauty in Lambury Lane, Burton Joyce. As you can see, fantastic outdoor space, which they don't show on the Homes Under the Hammer type shows normally, unless it's either really bad or really good. And in this case, it's certainly really good. So we'll get to the valuation at the end. Do watch along. As you can see, cracking kitchen extended out into a new living area, and also they've got a nice utility room as we move through the living space. Downstairs there is an extension into the living rooms and dining area, and also a family TV room before you move upstairs into those 6 bedrooms. As you can see, a balcony, and you're not overlooked, so you can enjoy that one. And then we'll go through. There are 3 bedrooms, as mentioned as well, before we move into an office, so you can work from home and make it your forever home. If you move into this place, you're not moving anywhere else, are you? And as mentioned, there is an annex, which is described by Ben as a multi-generational household, meaning you can keep your elderly relatives at arm's length, I guess, if you need to, or family visiting to see how nice your house is once you've moved in. Last point of note is that it is in a catchment area of good schools, secondary and primary school. And finally, the guide price, 875,000 to 895,000. If you'd had a guess when you got that, well done. I thought it was a bit low, actually, when I saw the video. I thought it was going to be higher. So do check that out. Do click the link in the description. Obviously, if you've just listened to that and you haven't seen it, definitely click the link in the description. And thanks as ever to Ben and all the other sponsors who make this show possible. Yeah, because often when I speak to you in these games, you feel like, oh, it's going to be a tough game. Even a draw is not a bad result. That kind of thing. Are you going into this one thinking anything other than a win is a disappointment from your point of view then?
Yeah, particularly because we've dropped a few points in matches that we probably wouldn't have hoped to. So, we don't really have that buffer that maybe we'd have liked to. Away at Forest in a 12:30 kickoff after international break, if that was, 6 months ago, you probably would have taken a point there. But with the way things are now, I definitely want 3.
Just lastly, before we let you go then, we've spoken quite a lot about the crowd atmosphere, how it could get very nasty very quickly. I don't know if you saw the Midtjylland game, but if Chelsea score first and score early, it could get ugly. Would you expect them to come out and go for it, or is Maresco a little bit more conservative for 20 minutes and have a look at it?
No, I think if we think we can start the game and get on the front foot, and he'll probably be aware of that a good start will put the Forest team under even more pressure than maybe they're already under. I wouldn't be surprised by a fast start. It could cost us the other way, though, as I said, with we try and do too much and it forces errors our side. But no, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's going to be 0-0, certainly.
No.
So, yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Right, Harry, give us a shout for where people can find your work in the world of FPL as ever, if they haven't found you already.
Oh, thank you. Just FPL Harry basically everywhere. But of course, make sure if someone's watching because they want to watch me, then make sure you subscribe to you guys.
Lovely, lovely stuff. Right, thanks to Harry. We shall be back with him later in the season, obviously, when we play Chelsea again. And if there's any relevant stuff around cup fixtures, or we sign any of their players, or please don't sign Elliot Anderson or anyone like that. But yeah, we might do more around that. But in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider membership or Patreon, and you'll get early access to this. Join us on the Discord server, and give us a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify would be great. And we shall be back tomorrow with our post-match show, which I am, slightly dreading at the moment, but hopefully by 12:30 I'll be feeling more optimistic on Saturday. But in the meantime, thanks very much, and if we don't see you tomorrow, we shall see you soon.